Vinny joins us now. Vinny, good afternoon.
Vinny.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, guys?
Vinny, boy, everybody's coming after you now.
Wow, Vinny. You set the
Reminds me
storm.
of 2015. It reminds me of 2015, Fred. You know all about that.
Oh. What happened in 2015? I wasn't around.
The chase for Los Angeles and how emotional and divisive that all got. Fred was under the gun quite often, if I remember correctly. I think me and Fred actually had a couple. Did we have a couple of spats, Fred? I don't remember.
We had a few spats. Vinny Bonsignore, our NFL insider. Yeah, we had a few spats. I think I was right, by the way.
You're always right, Fred.
I don't know about that, but I was then. All right, Vinny. So let's get to it. And whatever everybody is saying, so Jerry Jones says you're basically full of it. The NFL says there's no substance to your report. Dean Spanos, who you like, said it's effing bull you-know-what. Not true. You're suggesting that there may be some whispers, maybe some behind-the-scenes chatter that the possibility of the Chargers moving to London might not be a bad idea if things don't turn around here. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to say this because to me, and I know what my reporting is, so I'm comfortable with all that, in spite of what anyone wants to say, and that's fine. I got big enough shoulders, I can handle it. But I will say this. I'm actually pleased with the reaction from the NFL and Jerry Jones and even Dean, for that matter, because for the first time, I think that the NFL has come out emphatically to support the Chargers for the first time, because there's been a lot of these types of discussions and talk and scuttlebutt, and the league, for the very get-go almost, when the Chargers came here to Los Angeles, just sort of took a back seat and let the Chargers take a lot of hits, as a result of all that. So while it may have come a little bit at my expense, which I'm completely fine with, I'm comfortable with my reporting, I do like that the NFL has come out the way they've come out to say there's no substance. The Chargers are staying in San Diego. That's where they're going to be. That's where
Los Angeles.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Exactly. We got to make that clear. But Fred, for the first time, do you remember the league coming out as hard as they have to finally kind of support the Chargers here in Los Angeles publicly? I'm not talking about behind the scenes, but publicly. I think that's actually long overdue, really, for the Chargers in Los Angeles and for the league to take that kind of a position. That said, I'm comfortable in my reporting, and I know what's up, and I never suggested that they were on their way out to move to London, or that the NFL was ready to push the eject button. I'm just suggesting that they have an eye on what's going on in Los Angeles, and are there other possibilities? Are there other avenues to alleviate this if this concern continues to fester in the way that it has? And I will say this too. I think there's a little bit of impatience by the NFL and maybe some overreaction. Nobody ever thought that the Chargers were going to come to Los Angeles and overnight create a strong foothold for themselves. It was always going to be a process, and that process is playing out probably a little bit slower than some had imagined or hoped. But there is a little bit, I think, of hastiness on the NFL's part to say that this is a failure after just 3 years. It needs time, and I think that that's what Dean and the Chargers are asking for is the right amount of time. The question is, how much time is the right time?
Right.
And what will this look like in 5 to 10 years? So that's where there's some concerns.
Well, go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, given that they have to have some time, you think that it's, some water cooler talk over there at Park Avenue in New York about, as they watch the games, and the narrative is become every time there's especially a national game out here in L.A. for the Chargers, the talk is about, the first thing comes out of people, well, there's going to be more fans for the opposing team than there will be for the Chargers. That narrative, right. and then, what's it going to possibly look like when they go into a 65,000-seat stadium? How is that going to affect the Chargers from an optic standpoint? You think they're a little bit afraid of that as well?
I think they're considering all of those things, and Fred, we know, having covered this story back in 2015, some of these red flags, some of these issues are issues that were pointed out even at that time. Like, this could be a longer process than you might think. This market went without the NFL for 21 years. That's a whole generation of fans that grew up as Rodney Peete with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys and the Jacksonville. Who else did you play for? You played for, the Detroit Lions. This is a generation of fans that grew up as fans of other teams or fantasy league fans or not fans at all. And these are fans that are grown up now. And all of a sudden, not one but two teams come into the market and say, hey, switch over allegiances from the Cowboys or the Jaguars or whoever, the Lions, and become a fan of. That's hard to do. It's hard to ask somebody to do that overnight. It just wasn't feasible that was going to happen. It's a struggle for the Rams. They're finding that out, although they have a much stronger foothold. And it's certainly the case for the Chargers. And so maybe some patience is what's required, but it is a little bit troublesome when that's not happening at a pace that people want it to happen at. And you're seeing it on TV. And what is it going to look like when the Chargers get to the new stadium where there's 65, 70,000 fans, and how many of their fans are going to be in there, and how many fans is it going to be of other teams? And there's going to be a significant amount. There's no question of opposing fans, but is it going to look crazy like it's kind of looked, against Steelers and against the Packers? So that's to be determined. Now, on the other hand, those tickets are being sold still. So at the end of the day, they're still making their money, and in the process, hopefully creating a fan base so that over time, that gets turned over. But the question becomes, when will that actually happen, and will it actually happen?
I think the NFL miscalculated. I think this is all their fault. They miscalculated the interest in the market. They screwed up the relocation situation where they had to give a consolation prize after they'd already determined Stan Kroenke was going to come here in the first place. So they wanted to make nice, let Mark Davis go to Las Vegas. They hoped Dean would stay in San Diego, but they wouldn't give him any more money, and he needed money to build another stadium. I'm wondering this. I brought it up earlier. It's something you and I agreed on. Is it too late for them to rebrand and really become an LA team?
That's a great question. I always felt like maybe they should consider that. But I'm going to take it one step further, Fred, on how the NFL messed this up. Don't ever forget that they told the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Rams that in order to prove that that we should allow you to relocate, you basically have to run down your current market. You have to take a blowtorch to show us why your market's no longer working. Well, what do you do in that case? You have to make your market look really bad. The Rams had to make it look like St. Louis was never going to be able to support an NFL team. You had to really hurt the fan base and the city that you were currently in, just to show the rest of the league that you are worthy of being able to move. There's a reason that you have to move. It's just not working in our current market. Well, it's a little bit different for the Rams having done that in St. Louis. None of those fans were going to make the trek to Los Angeles to watch their team. The Chargers, on the other hand, that's 110 miles. It's feasible car ride from San Diego to support the Chargers in Los Angeles. But after what the Chargers kind of had to do just to get the okay to move, they really had to cut down the San Diego market, and there's a lot of bad feelings over that. So as a result, a lot of fans that may have stuck with them and made the trip with them to Los Angeles on a weekly basis aren't willing to do that because it got personal, and that was the NFL's fault because as part of the process, you had to do that to your home market.
Yeah, they botched it, and I've said from the very beginning, and a lot of people don't like it, Dean Spanos really did nothing wrong. I mean, his remedy was relocation, and he took it. Now he finds himself here, and it's a tough spot to compete in. It will be interesting, Vinny, and I'll just say this. Yeah, I know you're reporting. I know how hard you work, and I know how plugged in you are. And I get the statement from the NFL and Jerry Jones, and they all said the proper thing today. I'm going with you. I'll just tell you that right now. I'm going with you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I know that everyone had to do what they had to do, including Dean. And I'm actually I respect in a way, what he had to say because he emphatically said that he's here and he's staying here, and this is where he wants to be, and he's going to fight for LA, if you want to put it that way. Which I think that they should be doing, and I think the league needs to back them, even through the struggles, because there's going to be struggles. You need to back your colleague and your team and say, we're in this for the long haul. Dean's in this for the long haul. We're going to back that process up, and we're not going to, be victims of the moment and let, a bad week, a bad game, the Steelers taking over the stadium, a bad season ticket sales year early on, be the cause to overreact. We're going to stick this thing out through the long haul and hope for the best as time goes on, which is what they should be doing anyway. And if this, if some red flags were thrown out there because of my reporting that there is some speculation with the NFL that maybe the Chargers should consider London, all the better. If the result of that was that the NFL is going to back the Chargers to the hilt, that's fine with me.
All right, Vinny, thanks. Good job.
All right, take care.